And today we usually set aside to get right with our Maker. And toward that end, we're going to do something about getting the right relationship with our spiritual side by bringing up a person who has been working on that side of our culture for many years. She's a regular here at the Melanin conference, and she brings a lot of time and effort to her work. And we're once again very proud to have Dr. Nteri Nelson here with us. Can you bring up with a round of applause?
Good morning, African family. I'm really delighted to be here. And being informed I have a little press for time, I'm going to just speed things along, okay? Today, my talk is on the anatomy of the spirit, health and melanin-inducing practices, and stirring ourselves back into solution. And that has many meanings, that stirring ourselves back into solution, and I'll be talking about that. Just a little bit background. I'm a holistic psychotherapist and a metaphysician and a teacher of the African origins of the ancient wisdom. My husband and I, who's here with me, even though I am standing here, you know it takes a lot of effort, and so I honor my husband, Dr. Nelson, who's here. We are co-founders of the Academy of Kemetic Education, Right Relationship and Right Knowledge, where we do counseling and consultation with families, couples, helping marriages, individuals, agencies, and we do classes. Currently, one of the main classes is there's a 9-month-long academic program in KaAbBa. It's a certification, first and second degree certification program, and
What is that?
this is an African-centered model for spiritual, psychological, and character development that's now being taught in Boston. Some of you have seen my books, KaAbBa, Building Light a Temple, which I'll be talking about today. Just like I'm going to stretch a little bit here. I just lost my mouse. You can tell I'm technically adept. Which way did it go? To my left?
Under. It's under the thing.
Under. Okay. Okay. All right. So this is one of my books, KaAbBa, Building Light a Temple. And the other book is The Secrets of Raising Consciousness. So this brings in our knowledge base, and this is one of the relationship books, On the Way to Finding Your Soulmate. We also have a forgiveness process workbook that we don't have up here. So we're talking about the anatomy of the spirit, health and melanin-inducing practices, and stirring ourselves back into solution. As an African people, we made our descent down the tree of life, and we moved from those having a consciousness perched in those higher spiritual realms as we went out on this seeming journey into these harsh material circumstances. And we've had many, many impacts along the way. But the idea of stirring ourselves back into solution is the idea of this journey as we went out and seemingly left our eternal home. You know, that within the infinite, the black, the boundless, the eternal, we moved out, seemingly moved out in consciousness and began this descent through the planes of consciousness. And the idea was to keep our consciousness perched on those higher planes as we seemingly had this more material and form experience. So the tree of life is the template for understanding our spiritual anatomy, understanding our equipment, just as some folks, some of the presenters showed slides of the human brain and all the aspects of the human brain. The tree of life is that template of our spiritual anatomy. So we want to penetrate into that. And this is the tree of life naked, just bare bones. And this is the tree of life all dressed up. So in the book it gets dressed up. But we'll just go into some aspects of this anatomy today. One of the things that we begin with is these terms, or meta-netter, which the Greeks would later call hieroglyphics, KaAbBa. And within these terms, if we could just like click onto these meta-netter like you would the icons on your computer, whole vast documents would open up, and we would have entry in glimpse into the whole moving geometry within the mind of God. Our ancestors were masters in the science of the soul, and they were masters in the journey of unfolding consciousness. You know, the journey that we would go out on, or seemingly go out on. So we understand that our ancestors have taught us that Ka is spirit, and Ka, and that's symbolized by the upraised arms, but you'll see there's two sets of upraised arms, because Ka is double. I'll explain that in a moment. But Ka is spirit, and Ka as spirit takes of the substance of itself to see itself reflected in form. Ka as spirit takes of the substance of itself to have consciousness in form. All right? So Ka, the Persian root teaches us that Ba, which is soul, goes forth to do the will of Ka. So Ba is a vessel for Ka, for spirit. All right. So we, in understanding the law of the Kemetic law of vibration, we're understanding this spirit matter continuum. That spirit is matter at its highest level of vibration, and matter is spirit at its lowest level of vibration. So all is spirit. Okay. When we let me explain just a bit about this aspect here of Ka. This is the Ka that is building up the physical, emotional, and mental bodies that are in the world. All right. Now, our ancestors taught us that we have 7 soul bodies. 7 soul bodies. And if we start with the most dense soul body, that's the physical body. And so many of the scholars here have spent a tremendous amount of time this weekend telling us about the importance of nurturing the soul body, the physical soul body. So I'm not going to spend time on that. We have to eat right, drink water, do the things that are healthful for the body, avoid toxins. When we move to the emotional body, it's really important to understand the thingness and the vibration of the emotions. That's a vehicle too that we have to attend to. And if we move to the mental plane, the mental body, we have to understand that thoughts are things too that we have to cultivate right thought, so that through that cultivation we keep our body healthy. Dr. Ann Brown and others have told us that 70 to 90, what was your statistics? 70 to 90% of the problems begin on these higher levels. We know that things happen from the top down, and then they manifest as dis-ease in the physical body. So we have to do the work on these higher levels. But we've only just talked about 3 of these soul bodies: the physical soul body, the emotional soul body, and the mental body. What about these other soul bodies? So we appreciate that there are 7 soul bodies. Okay, here they are here. Physical, emotional, and mental soul body, which our ancestors gave names to, the KaAbBa, Sahu. This forms the character, the temple. In the book, Building Light a Temple, when we are working on our physical, emotional, and mental body, we are working on building the temple. Moving into these other soul bodies is what will make the temple lighted. All right? Now, let's just talk about the Ba soul body. Let's talk about the Ba. Let's move into that Ba triangle. And what are we doing in the Ba triangle? So when we're moving in the Ba triangle, we are moving in the first eye, that melanated center, that black dot that we've been talking about all weekend, that Dr. King has given us his expertise in. So we're developing that first eye. And what is that first eye? If this can be seen as a symbol of the first eye, then we want to appreciate that as an African people, as a melanated people. We were the apprentices in the divine workshop of God. We were inheritors of the first eye, this eye that sees interiorly, and then later we developed these 2 physical eyes that would see exteriorly. But if we look at this as a symbol of the first eye, we were possessors of this spherical sidedness. And this is the ability to imagine if we were standing inside of this sphere and we were able to see and hold each individual mirrored frame of reference, of design, of sight within that divine plan. And standing in the middle of this sphere, we were able to see that individuated mirrored frame in reference to every other individuated mirrored frame. Imagine the sightedness in standing in that center. And it's through that alignment in sightedness that we are able to glimpse within the whole moving geometry into the divine archetypal plan. That's what this first eye gives us. We are able to have the experience of one at a timeness, one individuated mirrored frame in relationship to every other individuated mirrored frame. So we have this consciousness of one at a timeness and simultaneous all at onceness. That's what we possess as melanated people. That's the eye that we are trying to restore and resurrect. That's the eye that was torn out by Set. That's the eye that in its brokenness, in its loss of wholeness, is what calls us to move from a state of peace, P-E-A-C-E, into a state of peace, P-I-E-C-E, where we see in part, like the system of apartheid. If you dispel that word, you got a part of an eye. If you see the self as less than the fullness of the one true self we are and have always been from the beginningless beginning, until we seemingly went out on this journey and came to think about ourselves as less. Okay? So we possess this sightedness, this spherical sightedness. So that when we stepped out on our left foot and created, everything that we built could nothing but reflect the divine archetypal plan, because that's how we saw. Let's see. Okay, let me just move here now. So we went from this unitive consciousness into this dual relating consciousness of having to work things out as Haru, having to bring the alignment of personal will into alignment with divine will, into alignment with what our Melanin Center is teaching us, is the divine patterning that will keep us in wholeness and restore us in wholeness. How you doing? You following? Okay. All right. Huh? Right with me. Okay, good, good. So we moved to this dualative consciousness, this consciousness of relating. And in my book, The Secrets of Racing Consciousness, you'll see that this is what brings us to the horizon where we're doing this, if you draw a circle and cut it in half, we're doing this relating where we're trying to hold that this and that consciousness. But as we made our descent further down that tree of life, we moved into a consciousness of this or that. All right, and things would get a little worse even still from there, because then we moved into a state of this separative consciousness. Okay. Now, one of the things I want to do is say what I've said a little differently. Because and then we're going to look at some practices for stirring ourselves back into solution. Now, if I were to take this glass of water, now I want you to imagine the water as the noon, as the fount of all possibilities, as the black, as the deep, as the boundless. Because as Osir, we are accessors. We are accessors in that bi-consciousness to the fount of all possibilities, to the Aman, which is the fount of all possibility. We are accessors of that. And if we keep our consciousness polarized in that bi-consciousness, then we will have the solutions that we need in life. But so just imagine that this is, we're looking at this water, and it symbolizes the noon, the boundless ocean from which we can draw our supply. And what I'm going to do next is then imagine that, take a package of sugar, and I pour that in there. And I stir it up. So, as I pour this pack of sugar in here, you would see it dissolve, right? And if I repeated this, that sugar wouldn't be visible to the naked eye. But if I continue that experiment and pour another package and another, soon we would reach a saturation point where we would see that sugar precipitate out of solution and settle on the bottom of the glass. And this is our story, that in that bi-consciousness, as we were accessors to the fount of all possibility, we could access infinitely what we needed for this journey. But what happened as we made our descent down the tree of life, we moved into this particularization in consciousness, we began to see ourselves as a granule on the bottom of the glass. We began to identify that as our separated self. We began to see ourselves as this separated self on the bottom of the glass. And we also began to see ourselves in relationship to all these other particulate or encapsulated cells on the bottom of the glass. And to be in these often conflictual relationships on how to interact and have livingness with all these seeming separated cells on the bottom of this glass. You know, when you're in traffic and road rage, you know what I'm talking about. You know, you're a self and every other car is a self and you're just trying to get where you're going. Can you relate? Yeah. Okay. So, what we need is those melanin-inducing practices that stir us back into solution. Not that we won't still be this particulate on the bottom of the glass, because we did take this physical form. We can't deny that. We do have this outer physical form. But we won't live in wholeness and fullness if we are disconnected from those higher centers of consciousness that inform us of how to have that livingness as that separated self. You follow with me? Yeah. Okay. Sometimes it just takes something maybe more simple to capture these things that this is such a subtle science, such a profound science. So let's look at some of the practices that stir us back into solution. Now, I'm not going to spend a long time on these because a lot of folks already did this weekend. We know we got to do meditation because that's what taps the melanated centers in our. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. Taps into the melanin centers in our brain and induces that sense of peace and ease and calm, gives us that spherical sightedness so we can see how to solve the daily problems that we confront as a humanity. Trance, prayer, exercise, brother showed us yoga. So there are many, we had dance. How many in here got up and did some dancing? Huh? You know, see a show of hands. How many got up here and did some dancing? Okay, good. Okay, good. All right. So I'm going to change from that column over here to healthy, loving relationships. And folks have talked about loving relationships. It's so key to be in those loving relationships that, remember, it's within the black, in the boundless, in the dark, in the deep, that creation stirs, and there's the arising of the twin forces of Shu and Tefnut, the primal couple. And this brings forth the arising of the fire of Ra, the centrifugal and centripetal forces of that couple, which then, leads to the hurling of universe into creation. So we come out of the black as a couple. We come out of the black in relationships. Healthy eating and food, and so folks spent a lot of time on that. I'm not going to labor on that. And healthy living, looking at our lifestyles. And I think first and foremost, remembering it's the harsh conditions that reduce melanin in humans during the Ice Age. So, at all costs, we want to avoid this harsh living, this warring, these circumstances that create the harshness that leads into that Ice Age and that Ice Age consciousness. So what I'm going to do is move to talk about some wonderful things that our African ancestors, see, they gave us the menu, they gave us the map, we just need to do our research. This is straight from the book by George James, Stolen Legacy. And these are 10 melanin health and melanin inducing practices. Let's look at them. One is control of thought and control of action. And as we do this control of thought and action, we are stimulating those centers in the tree of life that bring us, we're stimulating those centers in the tree of life on this level here. Just thought and action, just the coordination of thought is already stimulating us, the impulse up in terms of helping us to repolarize ourselves in those higher centers of our spiritual makeup. The tree of life is the template of our spiritual makeup, which is both human and divine. Steadfastness of purpose, very key, because it's in that steadfastness that we're on the track. It causes the cultivation of the will, which is the KaAbBa triangle. So if we go back to the tree of life, this moves us into the KaAbBa triangle. And here, the KaAbBa is Haru. It's the Ka rests within us. It's how we do the struggle of bringing that personal will in alignment with divine will. It's in the KaAbBa triangle. The KaAbBa is the heart. It's how we then come before, many of you I'm sure are familiar with this, the scales of Ma'at, and have our heart weighed against the lightness of the feather of Ma'at. And you know what kind of practices we have to have in order to have the feather, the heart as light as the feather. What are some of the things that make the heart heavy and fall like clunk on the scales of Ma'at? What are some of those things that make the heart heavy? Stress. What else? Grief, anger, hate. Yes. What was that? Immoral behavior. So, yes. So it's the KaAbBa triangle where these struggles are going on, because it's in the Haru. Ba is Osir and Ka is Oset. KaAbBa is Haru. Haru is, the work of Haru is relating the father and mother within. It's relating spirit and matter within. And KaAbBa is the seat of the soul. And we heard yesterday that it's the pineal is the seat of the soul. And you can see the relationship between the heart and the eye. As you develop the heart, the eye grows. If the heart is shrunken, the eye is shrunken. So back here, okay. So the development of the will. Identify with spiritual life or higher ideals. It is that identification, that higher aspiration, that lifting into something higher than what's happening on the streets, wanting something of a higher, more lofty ideal that is sweeping us into those higher centers within, and allowing us to become perched on that throne as Osir. What do we need to do to be on the throne in our own kingdom? We need to aspire higher, and not desire. Desire is a lower spiral of aspire. Desire is this going outward on this thingness, and aspire is going up. You follow me? Yeah. Okay. Evidence of having a mission in life, which leads to prudence, and the first one I talked about leads to temperance. So knowing that we have a purpose, just knowing that we're part of the divine plan and we're here for a reason and we're on a mission, and this helps us in our upward, stirring ourselves into solution. evidence of a call to spiritual orders or the priesthood or in mystery. Now, what is your evidence? You can start to think about that. What is your evidence of a call of spiritual orders? This may come through in dreams. It may come through in your daily practice, your daily work of just seeing that, wait, I'm here for a reason, and I'm called through these spiritual orders into something higher. Freedom from resentment. So this is about, and this gives courage. This is about forgiveness. One of the things that's so important in our work is that we do a forgiveness process, really helping couples, families really do the work of forgiving. We've had lots of impacts along the way as we made our descent down the tree of life. We've incurred all kinds of loveless circumstances as we made that descent. These two are just really key, I think. Confidence in the power of the master as teacher, and confidence in one's ability to learn, which leads to fidelity. Now, if you think about it, confidence in the power of the master teacher. Think about our children who go to school, sometimes as early as kindergarten, all the way, even if they sometimes even get through high school or college or beyond, where they don't have confidence in the teacher. Now just hold that thought as a development of fidelity. Hold that thought. And then confidence in one's ability to learn. How many of our children have their confidence affected in terms of their ability to learn? What we're seeing here is there's a reciprocal relationship between the student and the teacher, having confidence in the teacher, being evocative of the student's ability to learn. And it's that relationship that brings the nectar down, brings the nectar of the gods into the life of both the teacher and the student. Imagine our children who don't, sitting back and they're not in that reciprocal relationship, and teacher's trying to, maybe he or she's doing calls himself doing some teaching, hasn't gained the confidence of the student, and the student's going, whatever. They're disconnected from that nectar. They haven't gotten on to that, they haven't seen how to stir themselves into that greater ecstasy that being in the black, in the deep, in that boundless, touching the fount of knowingness can bring. So our children are in many of these circumstances, and if we could just get them connected to teachers who are feeling that confidence. See, if the teacher isn't touching it, you can't help the student to touch it either. You resonate with what I'm saying? Okay. And then finally, readiness or preparedness for initiation, founding of mystery schools. And I'm really glad to say that our school has this outer appearance, its external appearance, in that we give classes, et cetera, and certification, and so on and so on. But internally, we're a mystery school, and we need to be about founding and these mystery schools. And what is initiation? Some folks may think, oh, initiation is this, that, and the other thing. But all initiation is expansion into greater consciousness, into wider and wider wholeness. And it's the heparu aspect of the tree of life, if we look at that part of the anatomy of the soul, where we move into this wider wholeness and appreciation and livingness. All right, so let me just see what else may be said, just trying to come to a close. What we want to do, well, one of the things that was said this weekend that I resonated with so much, but strongly resonated with is that we're going to have to work even harder in these health and melanin-inducing practices, because some of the things are going to be harder to come by, like someone was talking about the price of even eating right, you know? So we're not even going to even be able to rely on our diets to maybe keep us in that more healthy state. So we need to dig deeper in terms of looking at those health-inducing practices. We have we have toxins all around us, and in the days to come, even more so. So what do we do to bring ourselves into that Ba consciousness, and to be, not to bring ourselves just into that, but to stay there as we seemingly have this experience out here. When we're in that Ba consciousness, then we are the eternal observer. We participate in that eternal observing of the seeming self, which is the same self everywhere. It's almost as if you could get in back of the black sky, just be in the back of the black sky and witness all the stars. And know that every star was the same essential self as every other star. And that's the place of observing that is going to help us survive these times that we're now facing. We move from the in our descent down the tree of life. We've moved from this more spiritual consciousness into now what I call the vertex of the V. This is where we are when we want to understand what time it is. Just find this slide for you. Here we are. Okay, so in understanding what time it is, we've made our descent down into this, in our involutionary descent, we've made our descent down the tree of life. Okay, and helping understand what time it is. And we're now from that spiritualization of consciousness, now into this vertex of the V. Okay, and where consciousness has become the most materialized. If you think about what consciousness dominates our planet, it's this material consciousness that is ruling the day in terms of its impact on all the kingdoms, the mineral, the vegetable, the human. It's ruling the day. And we're now in this arduous uphill climb in making our reascent into the re-spiritualization of consciousness. All right? So we really are now called to look at those practices that, and meditation is a very powerful one. How many people meditate in this room? Should be everybody. Good. It's a very important practice. Okay. So, I don't know if I have time to take a question or two, or... Okay, so, well, I think I'm going to end on that note that we have incarnated at, again, the most earth-changing time when our earth is now being bathed with these spiritual energies that are, as I write about in my book, in the chapter called The Spiritual Implications of the Perfect Storm. We are now in that perfect storm. And the spiritual waters are rising. And those spiritual waters are now bathing our planet, because the material forces are, even though they're contending with the spiritual forces, the game is up. We are seeing this transformation. And as I said, in that vertex of the V, we're the ones that have to put our shoulder. I mean, we have that hard, arduous uphill climb in this reascent into sacredness and the sacralization of our earth, of our planet. So we have our jobs cut out for us. It's not the time for the faint of heart. So we need to be really strong and empowered to do the work ahead. So, questions? Dr. Brown.
I was curious as to how you would sort of give to us in some kind of way the re-spiritualization of consciousness. Where is the separation, or is there, between spirituality and consciousness? Would you kind of give me a little insight as to how you are relating consciousness to spirituality?
Okay. Well, in some regard, they're really synonymous. We are all, we're made in the image and likeness of God. That's Ka. When we hold up our arms in the Ka posture. Remember I said there's the Ka is double, and so Ka, there's the inspiriting Ka. It's the image and likeness of God, pure, undistorted, undiminished. Ka. Then, as Ka takes up the substance of itself to see itself reflected in form, there's the approximating Ka. This is me, this is you. This is how we, snapshot by snapshot by snapshot, you see in the arms here, we're taking snapshots, and those are snapshots of how much of the image and likeness of God I have been able to stabilize in my consciousness. How much do I really believe that? Professor Small is fond of saying we are gods who are having a human experience. But there are days when you just plain feel human and you forget, maybe I'm not so God-like. All right? So we are equal in essence, in spiritual essence, because we all have the capacity to be and are and have been from the beginningless beginning the fullness in the image and likeness of God. But we're not equal in consciousness. We're not all conscious of the same. We're not all equal in conscious awareness of that. So, and as we become more aware, we embrace who we are as spiritual beings. So the distinction between consciousness and spiritual are very intertwined. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you're saying consciousness that is a state of awareness. I guess there's some other levels that you can also look at it. What I say is the flow of current.
Yes.
And that's current in your brain cells.
Yes.
Neurons gives you that state of consciousness or awareness or aliveness.
Yes.
So that when you lose that, you sink into another different dimension where the flow is no longer, because been interrupted and stopped for some reason. So I equate the consciousness to awareness, and then spirituality would be that higher power of being in touch with something beyond us.
Yes, and I like what you're saying, because it's the way that it's through the spirit that we're able to reconstruct the conscious awareness that it is spirit. Okay, it's through the Ka is, and Purdom teaches us this. The Ka, is sent out to remind us that we are spirit. There are many, many passages in the Purdom that speak to that Ka is we are sent a reminder so we don't lose our mooring. It's so interesting when you even look at that word, mooring, because it's how we can when you're moored, you can go out but still have your polarization in the fullness of who you are without being collapsed into believing that we're something less than the fullness of that. And when you look at the word collapse, it's a collapse. And if you take the word lapse, because I give keys to dispelling, I'm a wordsmith among some other things. When you look at the word lapse and you reconfigure these words, you get the word sleep. You get the word sleep. So, spirit is what is impelling us to remember as we have seemingly gone out and forgotten. And that's where the consciousness comes in. And that's the consciousness that we're reconstructing. Okay? Any?
Question. I wanted to say something.
Okay.
Isn't the spirit just like simply the breath itself?
Is the spirit the breath? These lights are hot, I'm sorry. Is the spirit the breath? Yes, the spirit is the breath. Many sages have said the spirit is the breath. Because when we look at the creative process, if you look at in the black, in the deep, in the dark, in the fount of all possibility, there is a stirring. It's as if, in meditation, you almost want to look at it as black oil, just to give you a visual, just to think about that black oil. And when there's that stirring, which is the breath, then there is through that stirring of the breath, upon the waters of the moon, there's the fire, the flames that start to lick, that start to rise. And with that rising is the forces of Shu and Tefnut, the centrifugal, the male and the feminine, the positive receptive forces. And just as if you took that matchbox, how you have like the old wooden stove, you run it across the flint on the side of the box, and you get that spark. You know how that goes? You get that spark as you run that match. Well, it's like the same thing. It's that spark that starts to light the waters of moon and the black and the deep, and that those and through that fire. There's the circumgyration upon the waters of moon, upon that black, that space, and the raising of a mound, and as those sparks raise, one is raising higher than all the other. One flame is raising higher than all the other flames, until it makes its descent and pierces and impregnates or fecundates the mound. This is the same process during the fertilization between a man and a woman. You see? Because as above, so below as above. To understand the macro, we just have to understand the micro. And specifically, we have to understand the relationship between a man and a woman. If we want to understand this creative thing, we've got to understand it with ourselves. So there's the penetration into that mound and the fecundation and the effulgent light that comes with that, the ecstasy and the lightness of that whole process. And this is now they want to call it the Big Bang. I don't care what science wants to call it. Our African ancestors have given us enough information to tune into what that process is. I don't know if I answered your question. Did I say your question again? Yeah, so is air spirit? Well, you can see from that process, we need the breath to get it going. Is it the whole thing? Well, you know what? All the spirit. Everything is spirit. Spirit is matter at its lowest level of vibration, and matter is spirit at its highest level of vibration. All is spirit. And if we are feeling more connected with spirit, we can see that. If we're feeling more divorced from spirit, everything sort of feels material, and you know, we're atheists. We don't believe that there's anything reverent about anything, and so on. Okay, so the breath is yes, the breath is spirit.
I would say it's a driving force. The spirit comes first.
Yes.
For your ability to breathe.
Yes,
So
that's right.
the driving force for the spirit to endow all the rest of you, because we say it starts with idea in the heart.
Yes.
What if you to be alive throughout in all your cells, or an entity in and of itself, you need a driving force to drive that spirit deep within every one of those cells. So the breath is really this, you said it in a way, a driving force for the spirit to endow all of you. Now you have the total life force inside of you going.
Well said. Well said. Yes. So I don't know if we have enough time to have a question. Or just end with, okay. So then let's just just end with.
I have one question, please. Does spirit have a morality?
Does spirit have a morality?
Does it care? Does it care whether you are good or bad? Does it have a morality?
Well, let me just respond this way. And you know, there are lots of African scholars in this room who may want to add to that. But there is a divine design, a divine archetypal plan. And because with that arising of that mound and that fecundation and that birthing of universe, there is a design and an order and law that goes with that. Through the first eye, which we as the first in this outgoing footsteps of the human family were gifted with that eye that could see that design. The reason why we are in the place we are now on our planet, you know, I can give a whole talk on what time it is that in this descent, our Earth now reels from the mismanagement of having built out of accord with the divinely intended design. And the karmic debt has come due. For all humanity, we talk about going before the scales of my art, and we think about going one by one. No. That happens, and it should happen daily. We should go before the scales daily. Go through at night as we sleep. We enter in and see, yes, I could do better here. I didn't do so good there. Okay? We are going through the scales of my art for the weighing of the planetary heart in terms of how we have done as the African, Kemetic, and Aryan race, which I call in my book, The Secrets of Race and Consciousness, ASICA. African, Kemetic, Aryan, consciousness with a K, consciousness and mixture, because that's what we have now on the planet. You go on any train in a major city, New York, anywhere, you're going to see African, you're going to see Kemetic, and you're going to see Aryan. So that's the consciousness now that's on our planet. That is what's coming before the scales of my eye. We are now in the vertex of this V, in Judgment Day, with our planetary heart now being weighed. And we are going to be judged not just by commission of acts, but by omission. So we all have to be accountable in this day. Did I answer your question?
Yes, but
Yes,
not in terms I can
Tim,
understand.
maybe you have to speak to her.
Okay, all right. So if we could just close, we'll have you all do this closing with me. And want to have you do an Om, all right? I don't think I have time to do my little gong here, but I would do it that way, but it would take too long, so I'm just going to do it this way. 3 ohms. That's all we have time for. We'd do more if we had time. I want you to locate the A. We're going to do Aum, A-U-M. We're going to look, which is Aman, the infant found, the black dot, Aum. We're going to locate the A within the head, which is Ba, which is Osir, the U within the heart, which is Haru, and Oset within the mother within the creative center. So we take a breath, we divide it into 3 parts. 1/3 on the A, 1/3 on the U, 1/3 on the M. Together it is one. Feel that? Okay. So visualize that. All right, so that was 1, okay? Now the second one. We're going to circulate it because this is the A, the father, the son, daughter, the mother. We're going to circulate the A, we're going to bring the breath here, the U, and we're going to bring the breath up, the M. We're going to circulate the M back to the A to be the father and mother in embrace, okay? Together as one. Visualize it as we do this, okay? Together as one. Beautiful. Feel that energy? Huh? So we're going to do that one more time. This time, you know, as we do the we're going to squeeze the perineum muscle, which is the muscle that you squeeze to stop urine midstream. It's the same muscle women use in their Kegel exercises to tighten everything up after they had childbirth. Okay? You know that muscle? Okay. Huh? Okay. All right. And when you get on the M, that's when I want you to. I'm going to gesture up here for those who are not sure, so I can show you when to squeeze and pull that M up. Okay? All right. Together as one. How you feeling? Yeah? Can we do it 2 more times for the number 5? Just to, 5 is the sacred number. It's the Amsu Haru. It's the star. It's what we are. We're not supposed to be the granule in the bottom of the glass. We're supposed to be the star on the backdrop of the sky. They had it wrong when they talked about, we're working to get a body of light. A body of light. But you see, in the secrets of grace and consciousness, we got confused, and we thought it was supposed to be a body of white. We got confused. It's a body of light. We're building the Sahu body, the lighted body, the glorified body. Okay? So we're going to do it 2 more times so we can be in that star, that 5-pointed star. So, together as one, take a breath. Pathway is within. We don't have to go outside. And one last time, and as you do so, really focus on the you, the heart, as Haru, the son, daughter, who's in this struggle now of trying to relate the father, mother, the spirit matter within, both inside and out in the world. Focus in the heart for a second as we just linger in a second in that you as we make our way into then bringing the mother and father together. Because it's in that heart that we're able to see and say, my father and I are one. Because Ka and Ba are one. together as one. Thank you, African family.
Terry Nelson. I'm going to take just a 2-minute break. We have to run out real quick because we don't have as much time as we had before. I'm just going to set the equipment up and we'll be right back with you.